I've been designing bags since I was 11 or 12 years old, and not long after that, making them for friends and family and selling them to the teachers at my school. What's exciting to me is having a company that not only designs things, but builds almost everything that we build in-house. I love doing design work. I love fabrics and textiles and working with them. I love creating 3D shapes that people find useful. Even though I've been doing this for 40 plus years, I've been making stuff, it's still super exciting. And in some ways it's more exciting now because I feel like I'm better at it. I've sewn for a living. I spent a lot of my life. In fact, it was only a while ago that I hadn't spent most of my productive life actually sewing for a living. And I know what it's like to sew for a living. And sewing is really hard and it's really fun because it's super creative. You get to look at the end of the day and say, look what I made. When I travel, when I'm sitting at the bakery, at the coffee shop, I love to watch people and how they interact with their bags. I constantly carry a small sketchbook and a Writes in 4 Colors pen. Sometimes I use that for different layers in the process. You know, the red will be the lining, the green will be the outside, the red is one fabric, the blue is a different fabric, whatever it is. The sketching stage for me is sometimes almost a level of meditation. And then the next step is going into my workshop, my studio, or into the factory, grabbing a scrap of fabric and a scissors. It's a three-dimensional version of that. It's not in a computer-aided software situation. It's actually taking fabric and folding and cutting and sewing around corners and trying to make some of those things real. The next step in the process is I'll start inputting those ideas into my pattern drafting software. So I start with real simple basic shape, add the seam allowance, and then I plot it out on my plotter, cut the paper, mark the fabric with the paper patterns, cut fabric out using the paper patterns, and then I actually start sewing what might be the first crude prototype. This often involves a lot of false starts, and sometimes it's just there's a lot of tearing out of bags. Like I'll make a bag and I'll be like, oh well, the top half of this thing is totally working, so I'll just rip that off and replace this other panel. There's times where I'll hit it right on the second or third try, and other times where I'm like iteration number 17. So what happens after I've roughed out a sample of the bag that I'm satisfied with, then I show it to my lead sewers. They will help me bring it to that next step of being manufacturable. Then we take it, we cut one out in what will be the real materials that it will be made out of, with all the real components that it will be made out of. And at that point, we're busy measuring every piece of strap material that gets included in every seam to make sure that we know what that piece gets called out as. I guess now I feel it's one of the most exciting stages because we're on the home run slide. So not only am I working with my sewing crew to perfect my designs, I'm also including the designs of our production manager, Nick, who has come up with a kid's pack and maker's bag. I would say one of the most satisfying parts of the whole story is when we start getting feedback. The product's been purchased, people are using it, we get photographs from people on vacation or on a trip using the product. I like something that just does its job and then fades back into the background. Your design needs to be holistic. It needs to look like it's all related and was intended to be related. That, to me, rolls back to the work of Christopher Alexander, the architect. He said, I want to build a house that people just walk into and go, oh, I like it here. But at the end of the day, there's never enough O-rings, right?